Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode. Today I'm doing something very, very different, and I'm gonna kind of work through a story and lore um, piece that I've put together as a hypothetical um, story for Destiny 3 involving Xivu Arath and then a unique character that I'm creating. Uh, Again, it's something very different, and it's all just hypothetical. This doesn't mean anything. It's just me, again, theory crafting, having fun, writing a story, and writing lore pieces for it. So, bear with me. It might be a long one. I do apologize, but I hope you enjoy. And without further ado, let's get into it. Deep within the darkness of the Hellmouth, where the abyss envelops all light, wandered a lone minotaur. It waited for the thrall to emerge from the tunnel surrounding it, torch hammer raised, and its dim eyes scanning for movement. A thrall shrieked nearby, cutting through the deafening silence and calling forth more haunting cries. It was not afraid. Its scarred chassis creaked as it moved. Radiolaria dripped from its damaged core, hitting the cavern floor with soft splashes. The Minotaur was not only fractured outwardly, but inwardly too. Following the Undying Mind's defeat, it had remained on this moon, cut off from the garden. As if that wasn't bad enough, now a conductor had broken it off from the rest of its collective. It felt so alone. It could not remember when it passed into the depths, nor did it remember why. All it knew was the dark. No, that was it. The dark had let it down here. It wanted to find the dark. It wanted the dark that the thrall had, that the knight had, that the king had. They find the program in the depths, so it must be able to do the same. It knew the truth. The reason it had been sent to the moon was down here. The shape called for them. The system asked for them to commune here. It knew the dark wanted it to find the program here. It thought. It reasoned. It reprogrammed into something more than its collective. A colossal knight burst from the shadows, into the soft red light of its fading eyes. A dark twisted blade tore through the air as it barely grazed the Minotaur's shoulder. This was a champion of the dark. It knew it. It wanted to learn its program. It longed to splice. The Minotaur fired the torch hammer. Purple light erupted and a ball of void flame cut through the eyes of the knight. The knight bellowed and writhed in pain, swinging wildly at the Minotaur. A blow struck the Minotaur in the core, shattering the housing, spraying radiolaria around the cavern. The knight stumbled forward, then slammed into the Minotaur stumbled forward, then slammed into the knight, sending them tumbling into a pit. It felt so cold. Crashing to the bottom of a pit, a stalagmite pierced both of them, impaling them against each other. Its eyes grew dimmer as its radiolary poured onto the knight, slowly converting it. The knight writhed in pain once more, the radiolaria changing its armor to brass. And cracks and fissures formed across the surface of the knight's chest, and it burst open. Slowly rising from the corpse was a worm. It spoke to the Minotaur. It understood. It knew the program, and it promised to teach the Minotaur in exchange for survival. It accepted Savior. The worm whispered to the Minotaur. It told it that it could give it strength. The Minotaur didn't understand. The worm explained that strength would have kept it alive and would make it like the dark. The Minotaur still did not understand, but it didn't have a reason to. It wanted this strength for itself. It wanted to be a collective unto itself. It wanted to understand that which could not be understood. It wanted to be paracausal. Now, I am not Bife. I did not do lore readings, so that was my best attempt at one, and I hope it was subpar. A quick kind of breakdown of what I'm getting at here is following the events of the Undying Mind being defeated and the connection to the Black Garden being broken once again, this Minotaur was left on the moon among other Vex that were there. Then when the conductor, Maya Sundaresh, came in and began monkeying with the Vex networks, it was broken off, just like the Tharsis Reformation. It found itself alone. It had other Vex with it, but they left. They went in pursuit of other purposes, just like the Tharsis Reformation. But since this, being a soul divisive, decided to venture into the depths. It wanted to know, just like all Vex. It wanted to understand and to convert. Because it seeks a program, it decided the best course of action would be to understand the program that the Hive followed. The Hive, following the death of the Oryx and then the Witness, they still remained strong, even in their fractured state. There was still a pretty substantial armada, really, on the moon waiting for direction. There was a strength among them that interested it, and so the Minotaur descended. After passing into the depths of the Hellmouth, he fought through waves of thrall, and knights, and acolytes, killing more and more and becoming more and more damaged as he progressed. Wanted to know why they fought so viciously. They were not creating like the Vex do. They were not growing in number like the Vex do. They were not following a strict program, but rather an instinct. That instinct is the sword logic. It wanted to understand that. That is the program. It seemed to have forgotten along the way why it really came down here, but it wanted to be in communion with the dark like it had previously, like in the garden. And the sword logic was a means to doing so. So it progressed, venturing further and further, until finally it comes into contact with this abyssal champion, one of the Dark Blade-esque knights. It lost rather quickly to it, but slamming into the knight, they tumbled into one of the many pits of the abyss and impaled each other. Now Radiolaria consumes all that it touches. It converts it into the Vex brass. It began to do so, causing the worm to panic. That worm sprung forth, but it saw potential. You see, it saw the Vex network inside of the mind of the Minotaur. It recognized that there is organic tissue within that Minotaur that it could connect with, that it could tap into, even if it is a whole host of microbacteria, of plankton, really. It could give it all strength. It could become innumerable. It could do what no other worm or hive had ever done, and that is conquer the Vex from the inside out. But it recognized the Vex wanted to do the same thing to the hive. It wanted that strength without putting it to words. And so it offered, just as all worms do when it finds a champion worthy. It called out, and the Minotaur answered. It accepted the deal, not fully understanding what it would entail, and so the worm's hunger was passed on to the Minotaur. It wrapped itself around the core of this Minotaur and began to grow as the Minotaur tore through waves of thrall in the abyss. The Minotaur grafted each and every one into itself, slowly converting into more limbs, growing itself bigger, fixing its hide, well, chassis, if you will. It became a patchwork of not only Vex, technology, plate, but the corpses of the hive it tore through. The hunger of the worm bore through its core. It had never known that hunger. It had never known desire. All it knew was its simple program. And now it was something more. It was closer to the darkness. It could feel it. And so it continued. It tore through waves of nights, Thrall growing stronger and bigger until finally it convinced the worm that it was ready to go to the surface, to leave the Hellmouth and the abyss. Upon reaching the surface, it sought a Vex gate. It knew there was one somewhere nearby. And so it searched all over the surface until finally finding a gate that connected to the Black Garden. The same gate that the Guardians went through in the Garden of Salvation raid at the very beginning. It entered the garden and was quickly rejected by the Soul Divisive inside. They saw it as an abomination, as something other than Vex. It wanted it to be cured, to be cleansed. It fought back, and it consumed more of the Vex. Everyone it struck down, it took, grafting it into its own radiolaria, into its own collective unto itself. It saw this as a losing battle, and so it left. After doing so, Xivu Arath calls out. It calls out to all. She calls out to all of the hive and all the systems. It wants to make a play for the Traveler, for the last city. She wants to kill the Guardians that not only kicked her in the teeth, literally, but banished her from her throne world. And so she's rallying all of them. And the worm answers. And so, the depth mind, or the deep mind, whichever you prefer, went into service of Xivu Arath. I guess not service, goes into partnership with Xivu Arath. You see, the Vex mind wants to reprogram all things. But to do so, it must control all things. And it has a higher aim than most of the Vex. It wants to go faster. And it wants the Traveler. It can see there's a desire from the dark to consume the Traveler because there's unlimited potential to change a converted world inside of the Traveler. And so it rallies with Xivu. And now, to progress to the second part of this story. Old Chicago. Something calls out. A distress beacon of sorts. A guardian alerts the Vanguard, who has been rebuilding the city and started reclamation efforts to claim the lands on Earth. They sent scouts out. A couple returned rather shortly, said the city is still being haunted by something in the depths below it. Others stayed and began to go crazy, seeing things, whispering of nightmares. This guardian tells the Vanguard that a ritual is taking place. a hive wizard is conducting some sort of vile practice beneath one of the city towers. The Vanguard calls out to the Guardian. The one who killed the witness was in the fire team that struck it down, who has since been gone on efforts to take back large portions of our system. The Guardian answers. He returns to the tower, is debriefed by Zavala, tells him that he must go in with Eris Morn and Crow and Micah 10 and his fire team. The 6 of them will venture into the city and stop this ritual. They arrive at Old Chicago. They find the location that this hunter had pointed out, the scout. Upon entering, they realize something is not as it seems. Something's wrong. The ritual wasn't what they suspected. It wasn't a portal. It wasn't resurrection. It was a beacon, a marker. And there is an entity nearby that doesn't match regular patterns. It's unidentifiable. It's a mutant, an aberration. They venture in and slay the Hive Knight, thinking that might put an end to it and stop the beacon. It's when a gigantic, colossal Vex Minotaur that has an enormous worm coiled around itself teleports into the cavern they're in. It opens a Vex portal below them. They begin to fight back against this Vex mind. And he is not having it. A tomb ship falls through the ceiling, crashing into the Guardians, slamming them into the portal. They're all teleported. Well, falling through the Vex net, they arrive on a distant world, which I'm going to call, for now, Ares. Mainly because my thought is a version of Mars that isn't necessarily Mars, but similar is really neat, and I've always loved the Destiny 2 Mars area. So, Ares, for now. They arrive on this unknown world, some distant galaxy, after being ripped through the Vex net. And they're stranded. Away from the tower, away from the city, and away from the Vanguard. They must piece together not only how to re-enter the Vex portal, but what just happened. What was that thing? How did it do that? After some time, they are able to breach the Vex net because it is weakest there in that region. Upon entering it, they break through to a main channel, and it is in full-fledged war. The Vex are being invaded on full scale by the Hive. Xivu Arath is leading her full strength of her army through the Vex network to the city. Step by step, she's conquering massive portions of the Vex network, which shouldn't happen. It shouldn't be possible. And yet there is a mind, an axis inside of it, causing the network to destabilize, allowing the Hive to survive, protecting them, shielding them from the onslaught of the Vex. Just tearing down defense after defense, stopping teleports through time. It is dragging Hive from all points of the universe, from even other timelines, into this point, into this central channel. There's a image that I should have pulled up of a Hive ship crashing into the moon, There's a massive pool of lava. The ship looks like just a gigantic version of a tomb ship with this kind of pointed nose. It's a really, really neat concept image, and that's what I picture in the Vex network. There's tomb ships slamming into the Vex platforms, obliterating the hordes of Vex constructs as they are marching their way on this unholy crusade through the network. Our guardians pop in on a tomb ship. There's this panic moment, what they are to do, and then they look out across the field, and at the very far reaches of what they can see, there are champions standing, overlooking the carnage. They're grafted with Vex technology. These colossal, I keep saying that, and I'm sorry, hive knights, similar to the Dark Blade or the War Priest, but with Vex eyes and a radiolaria core. I want to call it a juice box, but it's not quite right. But still, radiolaria cores, and they are leading the charge. I want that to be Destiny 3's launch campaign. I want that to be the story. Not only does it turn everything kind of on its head, not only does it drag so many interesting components in my opinion, but it creates this incredible can of worms, because now that the Vex network is destabilized and open, we can bounce through the galaxy. It's not just limited to our system, it's the entire galaxy that we can jump through. And at various points, we can touch down at all these unique planets that we wouldn't be able to in the current Destiny timeline, like in the current story. It would create endless possibilities, literally limitless possibilities, as well as Eris Morn was able to banish Xivu from her throne world, but stop that incursion that Xivu did on Torobatl to the Cabal from happening on Earth. She's put an end to that. So Xivu needs another way, and what better way than using the Vex network in a much more interesting and much cooler way than in a Splicer. I like the concept of the Vex network a lot. I think it's a really neat thing. I don't think it was done very well in Splicer. Don't get me wrong, Splicer was a good season. However, there needed to be something bigger with it, and I think this is perfect for that. Have a full-scale war inside of it that you're popping in and out of. You're going through the Vex network, trying to hop ahead of Xivu to stop her, and in doing so, you're landing on a planet and you're skipping forward, or you're hopping hive ship to hive ship, like this. The image of us crashing a tomb ship into Xivu is one of the coolest things to me, and I want to do that. Like, that should be end of the raid. The raid, which should include the Deep Mind as her war priest. I think that would be awesome to have a Vex mind teleporting things in and out of time, or in and out of space, if you will, in an encounter, as well as doing hive magic through the worm and having this worm messing with things as stuff is happening, right? I want War Priest on steroids for this guy, and then I want Xivu, because we can't just beat her physically, like we can't just go toe to toe with her. All the mechanics that have led up to her in the raid, it should start with one and then it should fail, and then we go to another and it should work for a little bit. Like, the entire encounter is a damage phase, and you're staggering her with these different mechanics until it just doesn't work, right? You get through 2 damage phases and she's done being staggered, right? I say damage phases is like You get her to a third of health. Now you just drop a tomb ship on her, or you do something insane like that. You teleport her into this like atmosphere of the moon and just plummet her into the ground. Like, I want to see a gigantic Xivu crash landing through the Scarlet Keep. Like, that's the scale it should be at. Which I know, that's a lot. Sorry. But I think that would be so cool and so much better than whatever is happening with the Nine. I'm sorry. Bale is the only interesting character. Well, I should say Bale and Lodi are the only interesting characters. And they were leading into Old Chicago with Lodi. Everything else does not interest me in the slightest. Especially when you have Xivu, who's set up so well already. We need to end the bloodline with her. She needs to die. But do it in a really, really unique way, and that's why pulling the Vex in would be awesome. Because now they're not just working against you, they're working against the Hive. You have, again, full-scale war in the network, and I want a shot of that. I think that would be perfect. Again, there's a whole lot of lore out there that I'm sure will kind of like nitpick a lot of my ideas, and that's fine. As far as I know and understand, the Vex are in disarray, generally speaking. I'm not so sure on how the Garden Vex are necessarily, and it feels like they're not really touched on at the moment. But I know the conductor has kind of laid waste to a whole lot of what was happening in the Vex collectives, which makes this thought of an individual Vex searching for, again, individual power or enlightenment really, really interesting. And to play into that with the sword logic would be so cool, because now you have a Vex who is terraforming as he is slaughtering Hive. Or maybe he's going on a rampage across Venus. That's where it pops him out, you know? Rampage across Venus. And or he pops up on Earth and he's the one killing Guardians. And now you're sent in to stop him, and you realize like this thing is different. It is unable to fight. I also love the image of the Brachion, his teleport through the arena of a, say for instance, General Grievous Minotaur, four-armed Minotaur with two torch hammers and two swords, like hive swords, doing that crouch teleport thing and then sword swinging, like doing massive sword swings like Gowron into you. Make it a Dark Souls boss. It'd be so freaking cool. But I'm getting ahead of myself. That image, that thought would be so unbelievably cool to me. I want that so bad. So, that is my story idea, my kind of lore breakdown. I hope I did a decent enough job. I am not a lore guy necessarily. I love Destiny's story, but I don't dive into the lore nearly as much as I probably should. But that's my rant. That is everything. All the stuff I have so far. I would love to continue to create a full campaign. I have some story beats that I want to touch on, but like full campaign, like 12 mission campaign for a like Xivu Arath war across the stars. So cool. But anyways, I thank you for coming and watching, and I bid y'all good night, because it is currently 11:47 on a Monday as I'm recording this. So I'm gonna be done. Okay, thank you. Goodbye, everybody.